So this is by far one of my most favorite things to do. I love working the dogs. Come on, guys. So my wife said she's heard some coyotes here in the woods area, so we're gonna see if we can't find some signs of them. As you can see, their little noses, big noses, are working. So coyotes and other predators are obviously a big deal, especially having livestock, so it's good to always walk the perimeter and just make sure that if nothing else, we get this dog scent in this area, and that is a good deterrent in of itself. This is by far the safest nature walk I'll ever go on. It's like they found the smell of something. So right here we're walking through the woods, and you can see kind of this almost creek bed. It's dried up, but if we get a ton of rain, this creek bed will fill up and it'll dump into the pond of my uncle, and then there's another kind of creek bed that goes up, and just over here we have our pond right here. You can kind of see that. So we're just gonna keep walking through the woods and see if we find anything. So we finally made it to our property line, which is right here, and then there's a bunch of wooded areas on the other side. So I think what my wife probably heard is on the other side of this fence line here. The one thing that you're hoping you don't run into is a den of coyote puppies, because number one, you don't want anybody to get hurt, right? Because a den of puppies means coyote mommy is near. She's gonna stand no chance. It's a 400 plus pounds of mastiff, so it looks like everything is on the up and up. I think the noise are coming from the greater wood area here. Well, we got back from our little scout mission. Everybody's all tired and tuckered out, but ooh, I got something in my beard. But overall, being in the woods, overall it was good. We didn't actually find or see anything, which is good, but there are some things to remember, and I think it's important to do these exercises with your dogs, especially working dogs, for a couple of reasons. One, it gets them into that mentality, that protective mentality, that mission-oriented mentality, because they're just like people in regards of, if they've never done it before, you can't expect to go out into the woods or go do a scout mission or go into any defensive posture if your dog's never done that before. Just like a person, I can't expect to give somebody tools and be like, hey, I need you to go perform this function that they've never done before. That'd be ridiculous. So you always want to keep them in that defensive, alert posture. Two, it's important to know what's normal, right? And the reason why I say that is because you have a lot of dogs that bark just to bark, right? My dogs don't do that. The reason why my dogs don't bark to bark is because they know what normal is, right? It's not uncommon for them to see a sheep or cow walk up to the fence line. That can happen without them barking, right? The sheep can put their heads through different areas, tight areas close to the fence without fearing the dog's going to bite them, because they understand that that's our livestock and we have to protect them. So it's important that they know what normal is, because you have a lot of these dogs that just bark to bark, and that's because they are stuck in a fence line and they don't know what normal is. They just know this doesn't sound right, when really it's an okay normal noise, or it's an okay normal smell, or it's an okay normal animal. So your dogs need to know what normal is, and the only way they're going to know that is by going out there and actually experiencing it. Because ultimately what that leads to are false positives. And by false positives, I mean you have a dog that barks, and you don't give a shit because the dog alerts to everything. That is literally the worst early warning system you can have, is one that goes off and you have no trust in it. You don't give a shit because you don't have any trust in that verification system. That's horrible. That's literally the worst kind of dog relationship an owner can have with his pup. And number three is something we'll talk about later, but there's a huge difference between working skills, working training, and obedience training. They are not the same thing. And so I'll probably do a separate video regarding that. But ultimately, by taking your dogs on these walks, on these patrols, so to speak, you are giving them that learned work experience, right? Because if you knowingly are going out into really the unknown, right? If you're knowingly going out into the unknown, you want to set your dogs up for success. So if you know that you might encounter something, that is the perfect time to start working on that training. And you may not be able to take your dogs off leash like I do. They may They may not be trained to recall. They may not be trained to stop barking. You may not have trained your dog to do these things. So maybe you need to take your dogs on patrols on leashes. That way, when we'll get to number 4, they do experience something, it is a perfect time for you to initiate and really start to take care of that training. And number 4 is that intentional training, is that lived experience, right? The first time my dogs come up on a wolf or a coyote or a bear or a badger or any animal that can hurt them, I don't want it to be by themselves, not knowing what to do or not knowing how to interact. I want their first time that they're going to experience that with me. I want to be able to train them, I want to be able to teach them, and ultimately I don't want that first encounter to be one that's of an unknown nature, right? And so when you're walking around your property, whether you're on a homestead or you're not, anytime they come in contact with another dog, a skunk, a cat, you want them to know how to behave themselves appropriately, okay? And the only way to really do that is through lived experience. And number 5, it's a great deterrent, whether it's visual or scent. It's a great deterrent because when I'm constantly walking the property line here, every predator out there knows, hey, there's over 500 pounds of mastiff constantly walking around here. So what does that tell the local coyote population, skunk population, badger population, wolf population? You know, maybe if we're gonna have litters of puppies, or maybe if we're gonna have litters, we're gonna have them outside, way outside this boundary line, because we don't want to come in contact with those animals, right? It's also a great way to let the local predator population know, you know what, I'm not gonna hunt on that property. So it's a great deterrent. And even if you're not living on a farm or homestead, you know, it's a great visual deterrent because all my neighbors know I have over 500 pounds of mastiff constantly walking around the property. So you're not gonna be the easiest person to victimize. Most people that know you have, you know, 500 pounds of mastiff, they're not like, yeah, that's the guy I'm gonna fuck with today. You know, and that's super important because I'm not here all the time, right? So if I'm not here and my wife is here, or I have other family, friends, children, if they're here and I'm not here, I want to know that they're protected. And I want to know that there is a real deterrent, something that's really gonna keep people at bay. So even if I'm not here, if all the neighbors know, if all the predators know, and if everybody knows, he has mastiffs on the property. And not only does he have mastiffs on the property, they freely roam the property, right? They're not just stuck in a gate somewhere, they're stuck in a kennel. These dogs actively have access to the property. That's not the people you want to victimize. So again, making sure your dogs are able to go out and are able to venture around is important because people will know. People will know if your dogs are just stuck in the backyard and that's all there is. You know, it could be the biggest dog in the world. It could be, you know, a very aggressive, large cane corso. But if I know he's stuck in the backyard and the house is free, it's like, whatever, still fair game. Also, don't think you need extremely large dogs to do everything I mentioned. You don't. You can successfully have active deterrence and good early warning systems with your dogs and work your dogs even if they're not extremely large mastiffs, right? I mean, personally, I wouldn't want to get attacked by 2 or 3 medium-sized blue heelers. And, you know, you're talking about a dog individually that weighs maybe 40 pounds. So, again, you don't need extremely large dogs, but you do need dogs that are trained and working. You need dogs that have the ability to recall, the ability to listen to you, and the ability to go on patrols with you. Take them with you. Have them have that lived experience. So keep that in mind. But there you have it. That's the video I have for you guys. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And as always, guys, long live the Republic.